involved in an incident, maybe an argument with a guy, you're at a bar, guy thinks you touched his lady, he's drunk, starts shouting at you and he pushes you. You know the next move might be the last one. So you should probably be the one who makes that next move. You leg sweep the guy, he falls, cracks his head open on the ground, and now he's paralyzed. You might be facing a long legal battle, and depending on the circumstance, you might end up in a cell. That's a real possibility when you decide to use a takedown in a real world event. You are inheriting a lot of liability when you apply force. Your decision to make the fight go from vertical to horizontal should be carefully measured, as should the type of takedown you use. There are very specific goals that must be met when doing a takedown, and each unique takedown has unique attributes. Before wasting any valuable training time learning random ones that some dude probably just told you works good, you must understand the goals to make an informed decision that guides your future training. So what is that goal? What's the mission statement for a takedown? You need to meet all of these requirements. You must be able to regulate the risk of injury to the person doing the takedown and to the person being forced to the ground. You have to be able to control mobility after the point of impact. It has to have an easy barrier for entry, meaning anyone can learn this in a relatively short amount of time, regardless of their starting skill level. And the technique must be able to work under a wide variety of conditions. If we were to separate all takedowns into 3 broad categories, I would pull in order of importance from that mission statement and loosely group them together by risk. Risk to the person applying the technique, risk to the person who's being forced to the ground, and the amount of mobility you're likely to have after impact. Here in the low risk category, you'll see foot sweeps, ankle picks, knee taps. More of judo style takedowns, absent the shoulder throws or the hip throws. There's not a lot of ballistic force, so the risk of injury is lower than our other 2 categories. You're also less likely to be attached to the person after impact. In the medium risk, we have our midline takedowns, mostly body locks. These have a higher potential for injury than the low risk category, but you can control the rate of descent, providing a soft landing if you don't want to bounce them off the ground. Now, these really tend to have a lot of attachment after impact, so it's something to consider. Finally, we have our high risk ballistic highlight reel takedowns. Double legs, hip throws, shoulder throws. There is a lot of potential for injury, and it's difficult to control the descent. My recommendation for most people is to spend training time in the medium risk category, those body locks. Specifically, I would develop takedowns from the split seatbelt position. Why? If we think back to our goals, the split seatbelt meets all of them. We can control the rate of descent, minimizing risk, or if warranted, we can maximize ballistic force and maximize potential damage. We have control over the hands. That would be an implied task anytime you're applying a technique in the real world. We can disconnect after impact, though it's not going to be as easy as maybe a foot sweep. Also, it's not very difficult to understand or learn. In a short amount of time, you can establish a foundation, and with minimal sustainment, over time, you can maintain your foundation. Training is the last point I want to touch on, and it's often overlooked in LE conversations. Training time is limited, and you have a ton of skill to develop if you want to be prepared. I know learning the split seatbelt position doesn't take that long. I know because every weekend we teach people how to use a split seatbelt effectively all over the country. We teach people with absolutely no prior skill, and we watch them use it successfully with only a few hours of training. They use it successfully under extremely heavy pressure during our evolutions. So I know it's a simple, effective technique that can be learned by just about anyone. If you really want to learn how to force people to the ground from the split seatbelt, visit Shivworks.com, come train with us, and we'll get you started down the right path of training.